Part 1.
You will hear a policeman giving a talk to some students. First, you will have some time to look at questions 1 to 6.
I am officially the University Liaison Officer, which means I have a specific brief to act as a go-between for the university and the police, if there are problems, and also to offer an official presence on or around campus and give individuals advice if they need it. Now, my job is very important to me. I take security and reducing the threat of crime on this campus very seriously. Because although I don't actually live on the campus, both my daughters attended this university, and my son is still here. So, I am a local policeman in every respect. I have been the University Liaison Officer for the last 5 years, but I have been in the police force for 15 in all. Now, on to some advice. The first thing I want to stress is that this university is a comparatively safe place to live. We have had no serious crimes here in the 5 years I've been here. In fact, crime of any sort is very rare on the campus. We have good security here, and although there are a lot of staff and students, the security staff, including myself, make an effort to get to know your faces. However, as students, it is of course wise for you to take precautions to protect yourselves against crime when you are off the campus. As I said, the campus itself is really very safe, but there is a large park right behind it, McGowan Fields, and although this is a beautiful place to sit or walk during the day, at night you must be careful. 1 or 2 students have reported unpleasant incidents at night while walking in the park, although it must be said that no major incidents have been reported. Now, there are no areas in town which I advise students to avoid as a general rule, but the town centre is more hazardous than other areas, especially in the evenings on Friday and Saturday. On these days, there is often fighting after people have had too much to drink in the pubs and clubs in the area. There have also been a number of robberies and muggings.
Before the talk continues, you have some time to read questions 7 to 10.
Well, that was my advice to you. Most of it is common sense. But remember, crime always happens when you least expect it. But there are ways to protect yourself. First of all, the university provides all students with personal alarms. If you are attacked, you can use this to put off your attacker. Secondly, don't take anything with you that cannot easily be replaced, like a passport, or things of sentimental value. Leave jewellery and other valuables in your room when you go out. Always make sure you take something which will identify you, perhaps your student card or your driving licence. Thirdly, when you are out late at night, come home in twos. It's much safer if you're with a friend than on your own. And obviously, don't have very much money on you. Finally, if you do know you'll be late back and can't use public transport, tell someone else when you expect to be home, and if there's a problem, they can raise the alarm. So, that's about all from me, and I wish you a pleasant and safe stay here. Thank you.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
Part 2. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Okay, I'm here today to talk to you all about the panda. It is a species of bear that is under great threat from the damage that humans are doing to the places where they live. The panda is a peaceful animal that has a black and white coat and is loved around the world. It is a distinctive symbol of China, and the panda has also been the logo of the WWF, that's the Worldwide Fund for Nature, since it was set up in 1961. It is a member of the bear family. They live mainly in bamboo forests high in the mountains of western China. A panda's daily menu consists almost entirely of the leaves, stems and shoots of various bamboo plants. Bamboo contains very little nutritional value, so pandas must eat 12 to 38 kilograms every day to meet their energy needs. Newborn pandas are about the size of a stick of butter, so that is really small. But they can grow up to 330 pounds as adults. They are dependent on their mothers for the first few months of their lives. Panda cubs start to climb trees when they're only 6 months old, and as adults, the pandas make excellent climbers, despite their big weight. A panda's average life in the wild is 14 to 20 years, but a panda can live up to 30 years when they are looked after in places such as zoos. So why do we worry about pandas so much? Why are they important? Well, pandas play a very important part in the bamboo forests where they live by spreading seeds, which helps plants and trees to grow. In the Yangtze Basin, where pandas live, the forests are full of a vast variety of amazing wildlife, such as dwarf blue sheep, multicoloured pheasants, and other species that are in danger of extinction, including the golden monkey. Also, pandas bring huge economic benefits to local communities through ecotourism. Pandas have two main threats. The first is hunting, which is a constant concern. Poaching or killing the animals for their fur has declined due to strict laws and greater public awareness of the panda's protected status. But hunters seeking other animals in panda habitats continue to kill pandas accidentally. They are also threatened by habitat loss. In other words, by the loss of the home where they live. China's Yangtze Basin region is where the panda's main home is. But this area is an important economic region for this booming country. So roads and railroads are being built, and these are increasingly destroying the forest. This means that panda populations get separated, and so they can't find a partner to mate with and have babies. Destroying the forest also reduces pandas' access to the bamboo they need to eat to survive.
Now, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20.
So what is being done to protect the panda? The Chinese government has established more than 50 panda reserves. Reserves are places in the wild where animals are protected. However, only around 61% of the country's panda population is protected by these reserves. The WWF is also playing a big part in protecting the panda. The idea for the WWF logo came from Chi-Chi, a giant panda that had arrived at London Zoo in 1961, the same year WWF was created. The people who set up the WWF were aware of the need for a strong symbol that everybody around the world would recognise. They agreed that the big, furry animal with her cuddly, black-patched eyes would make an excellent logo. This has helped to encourage many people to help support the panda. Controversially, a well-known television presenter called Chris Packham, who has hosted programmes about animals for many years on British TV, said pandas might not be worth saving. He explained that pandas are extraordinarily expensive to keep going. We spend millions and millions of pounds on this one species, but much less on others. He argues that it would be better to take all this money we spend on pandas and look after other natural places such as rainforests around the world. He says we have to accept that some animals are stronger than others. The panda is a bear that eats a type of food that isn't very nutritious. It gets diseases easily, and it's very difficult to breed. He thinks that extinction is very much a part of life on Earth, and we're going to have to get used to it in the next few years because climate change is going to result in all sorts of animals disappearing. However, I don't agree with him. The panda is quite a weak animal, but this is not why it is going to die or become extinct. When he says that if you leave them be, they will die out, that's simply not true. The reason it is in danger is because of the damage that humans are doing to the forests that they live in. If we don't destroy this, then they will survive in the same way that they have for thousands of years. And also, the places where the pandas live should be protected anyway. The panda shares its home with the red panda, golden monkeys, and various birds that are found nowhere else in the world. The pandas' numbers are increasing in the wild, so I don't see them dying out. OK, I hope you've enjoyed my short talk on pandas. Are there any questions?
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
Part 3.
You will hear an interview between Dr. Mullet, a university lecturer, and a student, Fayed. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25.
So, Fayed, you found my office quite easily?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for coming such a long way for the interview. I believe you are from the Middle East. Now, Fayed, I really wanted to speak to you during this interview about two things: your exam results and your final year dissertation. Your thesis, your dissertation, that was something quite special. Your personal tutor actually sent me a copy, and I must say that for a third-year undergraduate, it is a very polished piece of work.
Thank you.
Yes, it is very promising. Now, the thing is, your tutor tells me that you weren't all that happy with your exams.
Well, the results aren't out yet, as you know. The first 4 were fine, but in the last 3 I lost my nerve a bit and didn't do so well. I know I didn't do as well as I could. I was worried when I'd handed in my exams.
Right. Well, exams are a bit of a game anyway. We can't all do well on the day. But here, exam results are not everything, as you know. I set great store by other factors in deciding whether we offer you a place on the master's course. Perhaps you could tell me a little about how you became interested in economics.
Yes, of course. Well, I've always been interested in social and economic history, so from a very young age I read about the booms and crashes of the 19th and 20th centuries. I originally applied to study history at university. But when I got there, I realized I had the chance to study economics at a high level, so I changed. My mother used to be an economist at the World Bank, so I had her to help me and guide me, although she didn't help me write my final year paper.
No, quite. Now, you're applying for the master's course in the economics of the developing world, taught by myself and Dr. Brannigan. Why this particular course?
Well, I've read some of your work on the development of rural banks, and I thought this was a good place to be. I mean, this is my first choice.
Now you have some time to read questions 26 to 30.
And you're not worried about feeling homesick? You are still young, and Australia is a very long way from your home. I mean, your English is fine. There are no problems with language or attitude, but the distance from your family may make it hard for you at first.
I've thought about that, but it's a problem wherever I go. If I don't get in here, I'll probably take a place at university in England. That's just as far from home.
I see. And what are your long-term ambitions, Fayed? What do you want to do ultimately with your qualifications and your life?
I want to work in my country. You know there are some problems there, and I want to try to put right some of them in the economic infrastructure.
I see. And this is your last interview, I believe. That gives you 4 weeks before the next term starts. What will you do during your holidays?
Oh, I am going to relax. I was going to work on my English, but in fact I've got a couple of friends in Hamburg, so I think I'll go and stay with them instead, as I've never been to Germany.
I see. Well, Fayed, as you know, I can't give you a decision right away. However, I can tell you that you've made quite an impression with your application, and I think you should not worry too much about the place. My decision will be made tomorrow after I've seen the last candidate, and I'll let you know within the next 2 weeks.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for attending the interview.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4. You are now going to hear a lecture about the behavior of dolphins. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
Okay, today's lecture is about the behavior of dolphins. Dolphins are mammals closely related to whales and porpoises. There are almost 40 species of dolphin, and they vary in size from 1.2 meters and 90 pounds up to 9.5 meters and 10 tons. They are found worldwide, mostly in shallower seas of the continental shelves, and they are carnivores, eating mostly fish and squid. Dolphins are highly social animals, often living in pods of up to a dozen individuals, though pod sizes and structures vary greatly between species and locations. In places with a high abundance of food, pods can merge temporarily, forming a superpod, which groupings may exceed 1,000 dolphins. Membership in pods is not rigid, with interchange being common. Dolphins can, however, establish strong social bonds. They will stay with injured or ill individuals, even helping them to breathe and bringing them to the surface if needed. This altruism does not appear to be limited to their own species. A male dolphin called Moko in New Zealand was observed guiding a female pygmy sperm whale together with her calf out of shallow water where they had been stranded several times. Dolphins have also been seen protecting swimmers from sharks by swimming circles around the swimmers or charging the sharks to make them leave. Dolphins also display culture, something long believed to be unique to humans and possibly other primate species. In May 2005, a discovery in Australia found Indo-Pacific bottlenose dolphins teaching their young to use tools. They cover their snouts with sponges to protect them while foraging for food. This knowledge is mostly transferred by mothers to daughters, unlike primates, where knowledge is generally passed on to both sexes. Using sponges as mouth protection is a learned behavior. Another learned behavior was discovered among river dolphins in Brazil, where some male dolphins use weeds and sticks as part of a sexual display. Dolphins may also engage in acts of aggression towards each other. The older a male dolphin is, the more likely his body is to be covered with bite scars. Male dolphins engage in acts of aggression apparently for the same reasons as humans, that is, disputes between companions and competition for females. Acts of aggression can become so intense that targeted dolphins sometimes go into exile after losing a fight. Male bottlenose dolphins have also been known to engage in infanticide, which is the killing of their young. Dolphins have also been known to kill porpoises for reasons which are not fully understood, as porpoises generally do not share the same diet as dolphins and are therefore not competitors for food supplies. The main food of dolphins is fish and squid, and various methods of feeding exist among and within species, some apparently exclusive to a single population. One common feeding method is herding, where a pod squeezes a school of fish into a small volume known as a bait ball. Individual members then take turns plowing through the ball, feeding on the stunned fish. Corralling is a method where dolphins chase fish into shallow water to catch them more easily. Orcas and bottlenose dolphins have also been known to drive their prey onto a beach to feed on it, a behavior known as beach or strand feeding. Some species also whack fish with their flukes, stunning them and sometimes knocking them out of the water. When it comes to playful behavior, dolphins show various types, often including objects, self-made bubble rings, other dolphins, or other animals. When playing with objects or small animals, common behavior includes carrying the object or animal along using various parts of the body, passing it along to other members of the group, or taking it from another member or throwing it out of the water. Dolphins have also been observed harassing animals in other ways, for example, by dragging birds underwater without showing any intent to eat them. Playful behavior that involves other animal species with active participation of the other animal can also be observed. Playful human interaction with dolphins being the most obvious example. However, playful interactions have been observed in the wild with a number of other species as well as humpback whales and dogs.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.